Alright guys, how's it going? So I'm doing a full review of the Apple Watch Ultra 2. I've been using it since it came out. It's been like a month and a half now, maybe going on to 2 months. But I wanted to hold off on this review until that new double tap feature came out because that was one of the main reasons to get this. So now I feel very comfortable giving you my overall opinions on whether you should go for this Apple Watch Series 9 or Ultra 2 or try to save some money and go with one of last year's models. So first I want to talk about the build and the design. It's identical to last year. So, but if you skipped last year's Ultra, let me go through it really quickly. It's all titanium on the side. It's not brushed the way the iPhone 15 Pro series is, but I mean, it's fairly well color matched. On the right and on the left, you're getting orange accents. I actually really like it. The only reason why I'm mentioning it is because it's not available in any other colors. So you either like international orange or you're going with a different watch. And on the back, you're getting ceramic. It's actually kind of a natural titanium colors. It's meant to match the titanium of the case. And I think it does a fairly good job. As you can see, it's a slightly different color. I don't know. I'm getting too picky about this. With the Apple Watch Ultra series, you get a choice of 3 bands. And I'm going to tell you right now which one to get. So if you saw my video on the iPhone 15 Pro, you may have noticed that I initially had the Trail Loop band. The Trail was very smooth and soft and just like a much more comfortable pattern on my wrist. The Alpine is fine, but the material is coarser and it's a lot stiffer too, so it doesn't disappear onto your wrist when you're wearing it. And the Apple Watch Ultra is a fairly heavy watch. I don't want to call it heavy, but you know, it's got some weight to it. So anything you could do to help reduce the weight and increase the comfort, I would say go for it. And speaking of which, I personally don't recommend the Ocean band. It's really thick. It's a really grippy silicone band, and it's kind of a pain to put on. All I have left is just a box. I don't even know where the band is, and I am not missing it at all. So in terms of comfort, definitely go with the Trail, followed by the Alpine, and then in last place is the Ocean. I know it seems weird. You're spending almost $800 and 2 of the 3 choices are fabric bands, but they are incredibly well made. And last year when I had the orange Alpine loop, it held up pretty well. It got a little bit stained, but I was able to scrub it all off. So next I want to talk about the display, and this is the best display I have ever seen on a smartwatch. So I mean, as you can see, the colors are rich and wonderful. It's like looking at a mini iPhone in terms of display quality. I mean, it is it's incredible how good it is. And you know, I've had just about every other smartwatch. So I have my Pixel Watch 2, and I have the Galaxy Watch 6, and I've had Garmin watches in the past. And like the thing is, like their screens are fine, but you really notice it when you use the Apple Watch. You see, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like when you see notifications come in, like the images look as good as they do on a phone. And yeah, so I mean, I'm not saying like you should go around like looking at photos on your phone or anything, but it does make the experience a lot better. And also new for this year is a 3000 nit brightness. And so I took both the iPhone 15 Pro Max and the Apple Watch Ultra 2 outside, and I did a brightness comparison, and you know what? 3000 nits makes a gigantic difference. Like, look at the iPhone next to the Apple Watch. It's like night and day. It's insane. I live in a warmer and brighter part of the world down here in South Florida. Having the extra brightness is really, really nice. So like this morning, I took it out for a run, and it started getting really hot towards the end of my run, and the max brightness just kicking in just made the entire experience a lot better. The 3000 nit brightness is a bigger deal than I expected. And another cool thing too is the minimum brightness, so on the other end of it, so it can help you wind down at night, where I have problems with all my other AMOLED smartwatches to where I have to completely take off the screen at night. And I took this to the movie theaters once, and that light wasn't distracting. And another thing that's new this year is the on-device voice recognition for voice typing and for Siri. With previous Apple Watch, if you wanted to use this feature, what would happen is the data would have to get sent to the phone, and then from the phone it would have to send it up to the internet, and then the internet would process it and then send it back down to the phone and then to the device. Now that not this new chip is powerful enough to do everything on device, and again, it seems like a small thing, but it makes it a much better experience. And especially with a watch, like sometimes you would ask Siri to do something and it just wouldn't respond. That's just because for whatever reason it's not connecting to the watch, or your phone isn't getting good service, so the entire thing fails. This has been a really big game changer, to the point where 95% of the time when I need to ask Siri for something, or if I need to respond to a message, I'm just using my voice. This actually makes me use my phone a lot less. And so, like, one good thing about the Apple Watch, and if you haven't used it before, so if you've been thinking about the Apple Watch but never got one, is the app support is actually really, really good. There's an amount of really, really good apps here, and especially with the fitness app, like closing these rings is really addictive to some people. As you can see today, I had a good day. And the weather app has been clutch. It's just, there's like a lot of really good features like here, to where like I said, I'm picking up my phone way less, so really easy access to see what the temperature is going to be like today. And then more importantly, than I mean, because where I live, temperature is fairly consistent, but it rains a lot here, so being able to see rain right from my watch without having to reach to my phone. And I have LTE on this watch too, so sometimes if I'm going to run a quick errand, or if I'm going for a run, I don't bother bringing my phone, and I find myself being able to navigate and get a lot done in just a watch without even needing my phone. There's just some really silly things here, like the FedEx app is like fairly fully featured. I could see all my packages and where they are. So as you can see, even Google has to get on board. I use Google Keep a lot, and I have access to all of my notes right here too, and all of my checklists, my groceries, etc. So I don't know if there's third-party support for the double tap feature, and I haven't talked about that yet. I'll get there, I promise. One thing I've noticed though, it doesn't seem like Apple gives the same amount of APIs to third-party apps the way it does for their first-party apps. And you know what? I think this is the kind of stuff that Apple really needs to get better at. I mean, I just feel like they try to force this into their ecosystem, so even though they have third-party apps, it just doesn't work as well. So there's a Google Maps app too, but as you can see, it's fairly bare bones. It's kind of just like it just doesn't have the same amount of features as the Apple Maps does. And even worse, I use Spotify as my main music service. So the thing is though, I can only download 100 tracks per playlist, which is really, really stupid. There's 200 songs on this playlist, but the Apple Watch only allows me to download 100. But on the Apple Music app, it doesn't seem like there's any limit. I mean, of course, when you run out of storage, you run out of storage, but I've downloaded much larger playlists. The thing is, like, I'm suspecting Apple of restricting this for whatever reason, because on my Garmin watch, on my Pixel watch, on my Samsung watch, pretty much every smartwatch I've had, I've been able to download my entire playlist using their Spotify app, and Garmin has like an integration with Spotify, and you can download the entire playlist too. So I really think that Apple is purposely restricting APIs. These are kind of the things that really annoy me about Apple, to be honest. And in terms of their workout apps, like, none of them have as much features and are as rich as the native Apple Watch. And with the action button, you could only start a workout with the first party workout app. I just don't like to feel like I'm being forced to use all Apple products, and I feel like that's the entire Apple ecosystem overall. And you know what? Since we're talking about negatives, let me continue on that trend. I'm not a fan of the new WatchOS 10. I do like these widgets that you can activate by using the crown or just by swiping up. It shows all of my calendar appointments for the next day, and I set it up to have the weather, and this changes depending on what you're doing. Apple tries to be smart about it, and you could have 3 apps here that you want to quickly launch, and then if you go up again, it brings up the Apple Launcher, but not a very smooth experience. And that brings me to something else I don't like. I don't like this new interface. I prefer the honeycomb. Before, I had really good muscle memory with my honeycomb, to where I could like just I can scroll all over the place and be able to get to my apps quickly. But I have to scroll up and down, and I really just prefer to have like everything on a wider interface. It's been about a month and I haven't gotten used to it yet. And another thing I don't like is like I want to be able to swipe down to get to my notifications, because especially if I'm on a run or if I'm in a rush, or if I'm moving around quickly, I don't want to I want to interact with the touchscreen as least as possible. And another thing I really don't like is the new button orientation. So before you used to be able to just access your recent apps by the bottom button here, and now it brings up your control center, which I guess I'm okay with, but I really would just prefer to have my recent apps. Now you have to double click it, and I know I might sound spoiled, but that takes double the amount of time, and it's just extra friction in terms of me using my watch quickly. This is kind of a big deal, and I use this feature a lot. I just don't like how much extra friction it takes to double tap this button versus just being able to tap one button. And you know what? Another thing that I don't like is I can't change it. I can't find anywhere in the settings to change the button orientation. I think that's just really, really silly, and I think that's something that they really, really, really need to fix. It's been a bit frustrating trying to get used to WatchOS 10. Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely interested. Am I the only one that misses the honeycomb app layout or being able to hit one button to go to my recents? Really, really curious. Anyway, let's get back to some positives. Working out on this watch has been great. I don't know if you've ever used some of these Apple Fitness Plus features. There's some really cool stuff. Like there's time to walk and time to run. So let me just start off with time to walk. So all it is if you're going for a walk, you just put on one of these, and they're just like a whole bunch of different celebrities, and they talk about their experiences in life, and they talk about stories as they're walking with you, and you can kind of hear them breathing in the background. I don't know if it's real or not. It's to simulate like they're walking right next to you, and you really hear some interesting stories from some of your favorite celebrities. So if you get tired of your playlist, then this is a really good option. And one thing I've been really liking too is time to run. So what that does is there's a few coaches. They take you to different locations. So as you're running, they tell you about all the landmarks that are popular for trails. The coach motivates you, and in between they play some music, and then when you hit those imaginary trails, you actually see a picture in the Apple Watch of where it is. So if you do the San Francisco one, they'll say like, okay, hey, now you're running past the Golden Gate Bridge, and it shows you a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge while running. And the coaches are really good and do a good job motivating you. It's a cool feature. All right, so now let's finally talk about the double tap. And I think it could come in really, really handy if I'm in situations where I don't have a free hand. But many times when I don't have a free hand, I'm holding two things. Like say I'm holding like a bag of groceries, if I'm walking my dog and I have like a poop bag in my hand or something. Like the cool thing is it still works if you just tap on different things. See, so it still works if you have something in your hand. So that's really, really cool. And I have seen some instances where it can be very useful. One of my favorite features though is for the camera. So you can actually activate your camera remote with the Apple Watch, and then it turns into a viewfinder. So the coolest thing too is if you just want to take a picture, you just do the double tap, and it works every time. So you could be able, so the thing is too, you can get into some really cool creative angles that you would not typically be able to get because you have to look at your phone. So because you could use your watch as a viewfinder, you can get some really cool creative shots, and you don't even have to find the shutter button on your phone. You just literally do the double tap and it works. So yeah, so if you want to just scroll down notifications, you just double tap again, and then when you get to the bottom, it actually dismisses it, or whatever the first action that's available to you. So here in Gmail, the first available action is to archive it. So that's what it does. It's very, very basic. You're not able to fully navigate through your watch with it, but in the different situations that I have tested it in, it works really well, and it works every single time too. That's the thing about these kind of features. It has to work like 98% of the time, maybe even 99% of the time. If not, then people just don't use it. I kind of spent this video talking about mostly the new features that are available only on the 2023 Apple Watches, and the main reason why I wanted to do that is to determine if it's worth spending extra money with going with the 2023 Apple Watch or saving some money and going with something from previous years. And honestly, I would say if you have the budget for it, I would say go for the 2023 models. There's like a whole bunch of little changes, but they all add up to making this watch a lot better.